I still remember the ache in my back from those hardwood floors every single night for 6 years. I laid a blanket next to the radiator, let her take the bed, and told myself, she deserves better. I'll make sure she gets it. And she did. Oh, she got everything. The degree, the career, the mansion in the hills. You know what I got? Silence. Not even a Christmas card. Not even a, hey, are you still alive? Before we dive in, if this story moves you, drop a comment letting us know where you're watching from. And if you haven't already, hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell to keep the stories coming your way. Just a heads up, we don't just share stories here, we invite you to experience them. There's a little quiz at the end, just for fun. It's our way of saying thanks for watching closely and spotting the subtle moments others might miss. Anyway, let me take you back to where this all began. My name's Brian, and I raised my little sister like she was my own. We were 14 and 7 when Mom overdosed on the couch. I remember shaking her, screaming her name until my voice cracked. Child Protective Services split us up, but I begged. I pleaded to keep us together. Said I'd do whatever it took. So they put us in a tiny 2-bedroom foster home in Cleveland. Not the good side, the part where porch lights don't work and gunshots echo like wind chimes. Our foster parents weren't cruel, just tired. So it was up to me to make sure Kelsey got to school, did her homework, had someone to braid her hair and pack her lunch. We had one bed between us, a narrow, creaky twin with one missing leg. So I slept on the floor every night. Didn't matter how cold it got, or how sore my spine felt when I stood up. Kelsey needed to rest. She had dreams. She was always smart, scary smart, top of her class, obsessed with science. She once built a model rocket from cereal boxes and made it fly 30 feet in the air. I used to joke, "You're gonna build the next SpaceX and forget all about me." She'd punch my arm and say, "Never. I'll buy us a house by the lake." Fast forward 10 years. I'm working 2 jobs, valet by night, warehouse by day. Living in a studio apartment with a mattress on the floor and an alarm clock from 1998. Meanwhile, Kelsey gets a full ride to MIT. She graduates with honors, lands a job at a biotech startup in San Francisco. Suddenly, she's featured in Forbes Under 30. There's a video of her giving a TED Talk in a red blazer I remember folding into a Macy's bag during her sophomore year. I watched it 3 times, paused at her smile. She looked untouchable. I texted her, "Proud of you, Kels. Love you." No reply. I told myself she was busy, saving lives, changing the world. But then weeks turned into months, months into a year. I didn't hear from her, not even when I was in the hospital after a forklift accident crushed 2 fingers on my left hand. I found out through a friend Kelsey bought a $3.2 million home in the hills of Palo Alto. I looked it up. Glass walls, infinity pool, indoor gym. She named the house Astra. The stars, I guess she reached them, and left me on the launch pad. No calls, no visits, not even a, "Hey, I'm okay." I started to wonder. Did I matter? Did those nights on the floor mean anything? I never asked her for money. Never guilted her. Never said, "You owe me." But a phone call? A 5-minute voice message? It wouldn't have cost her a dime. I remember one night last winter. Snow was falling in sheets, and the heat in my building cut out. I curled up in a hoodie, pulled the blanket over my knees, and stared at my cracked phone screen. I typed one sentence, "Do you ever think about me?" Then I deleted it, because I already knew the answer. My name is Brian, and I slept on the floor so she could have a bed. She bought a mansion, and never called me again. I tried telling myself it didn't matter, that this kind of thing happens. People grow up, grow apart, grow into someone else, but deep down, I knew something had cracked. Not between us, inside her, because the Kelsey I raised, the little girl who used to press her hand against mine and say, "Look, we match." She wouldn't ghost me, not unless someone, or something, told her to. I started asking around. One of her college friends, a guy named Darren, reached out after I commented on her LinkedIn photo. Said I seemed familiar. Told me he remembered Kelsey always saying she had an older brother who was more like a dad. "She talked about you a lot," he said. "But not after sophomore year." I blinked at the screen. "Did something happen?" I typed. He never replied. And that silence, it felt deliberate, like the truth had teeth. I couldn't let it go, so I did what desperate people do. I dug. She used to store things in the cloud, photos, videos, backup files, and she once gave me access in case she forgot her password. I still had the login, so I opened the folder titled MIT First Year. Tons of selfies, study group snapshots. A video of her laughing so hard she snorted, and I remembered filming her at age 10 when she did that for the first time. And then I found a file labeled Recorded Call, Room 3B. It was only 32 seconds long. I hesitated, then pressed play. At first, just static. Then a voice, unmistakably hers, sharp, scared. "Please, don't touch me like that. I said no." Then a shuffle. Footsteps. A man's voice, deep and cold. "You think you'll get that internship without me? You're smart, Kelsey. Don't be stupid." Then silence. I couldn't breathe. I sat on the edge of my bed, the same floor mattress I've had for years, and stared at the file until my screen dimmed. That was the moment everything changed. My first instinct was to drive across the country, show up at her mansion, hold her, demand answers, protect her, again. But then I thought, what if she buried this on purpose? What if remembering me reminds her of that moment? Maybe I wasn't her anchor. Maybe I was her reminder. Still, I couldn't shake the thought that someone out there knew. Someone hurt her, and someone's walking around like nothing ever happened. So I made a burner email, sent the recording to myself, just in case something ever happened to me. I thought about calling the police, or a lawyer, but I wasn't even sure where to begin. I'd need her cooperation, her voice, her permission. And she wasn't answering, not calls, not texts, not even the birthday video I sent last week, me holding up a cupcake with one candle and singing off key like we used to. No reply. Weeks passed. I'd started working the night shift again, moving boxes at a storage facility near Akron. Quiet job, too quiet. My thoughts started chewing at me. One night, around 3 a.m., my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I stared at it for a beat too long before I picked up. "Hello?" No answer. "Hello?" Then, a whisper. So faint, I nearly missed it. "Brian." I froze. My heart cracked sideways. "Kelsey, is that you?" More silence. Then a sharp breath, like she'd just run a mile. "I can't talk, but I miss you. I'm so..." The line went dead. I called back, straight to voicemail. I stared at the phone like it owed me a miracle. The next day, I called her office. A guy answered, said Kelsey hadn't been in for over 2 weeks, that she'd taken an emergency sabbatical. When I asked why, he got real quiet. "Sir, with all due respect, if you're family, you should know. They're investigating her." Investigating? For data theft, intellectual property, some pretty serious stuff. I hung up. My ears were ringing. None of this made sense. Kelsey, a criminal? Not the girl who used to cry when she accidentally stepped on an ant. Not the one who triple-checked her library books were returned on time. I knew her, or at least I thought I did, until that night. I came home from my shift around 6 a.m., muscles burning, sweat clinging to my shirt, and I found my apartment door slightly ajar. I stood there, heartbeat pulsing in my neck. quietly stepped in. The place was dark, untouched, except one thing. The laptop I'd used to access Kelsey's cloud? Gone. Only the charging cable remained, half curled like a question mark. Someone had been here. Someone knew I'd found the file. I backed out of the apartment and didn't sleep that day. Didn't shower. Just sat in my car, engine running, watching the door like it might open again. I called the cops, filed a report. They asked what was stolen. When I told them, the officer raised an eyebrow. "You're saying this was about a laptop? Got any proof?" No, I admitted. "But the file, what kind of file?" "Personal, from years ago." "Uh-huh." He scribbled something, handed me a case number, and walked away like I was wasting ink. That's when I knew. Whatever was happening around Kelsey, it wasn't random. This was deep, planned, protected. Maybe that man from the recording. Maybe he wasn't some sleazy professor. Maybe he was bigger, richer. And maybe Kelsey's silence wasn't betrayal. Maybe it was survival. I haven't told anyone else this. Not even my best friend, Marcus, the only person who knows I sometimes talk to Kelsey's old teddy bear when I can't sleep. Because what would I even say? That the sister I sacrificed everything for is trapped in a life I no longer recognize? That I might be next? The paranoia's real now. My texts sometimes show read when I haven't opened them. Emails get deleted before I see them. And once, I swear I saw a black sedan following me from the grocery store to the warehouse. I'm scared, but I'm also stubborn. Because Kelsey? She didn't climb to the top by accident. She's a fighter, but even fighters lose their voice when the walls close in. And me? I've spent too many nights sleeping on floors. I'm ready to stand. Last night I got a package. No return address, no note. Inside was a single USB stick, and on it was a video file. Just one. Titled, "Don't Trust Anyone, Play Alone." I haven't opened it yet, because something tells me, once I do, there's no going back. I stared at that USB for hours, turned it over in my palm, rubbed my thumb across the black plastic like it could tell me something. Who sent it? Why now? And more importantly, what did they want me to know? The room felt colder, like even the air was holding its breath. Around 2 a.m., I finally got the nerve to plug it in. No antivirus, no firewall, no backup. Just my cracked laptop and a sinking feeling in my chest. The screen flickered once, then the file opened on its own. No menu, no intro, just static. And then her voice. Kelsey, breathing hard, whispering, looking over her shoulder like someone might burst through the door. The footage was grainy. She was in a dark room, probably a hotel bathroom from the tile behind her. She spoke directly to the camera. "Brian, if you're watching this, I need you to listen, and listen carefully. Don't call me, don't text, don't try to find me. They're watching everything. They've already erased me once." She paused, hands shaking. "You remember freshman year? Room 3B? It wasn't just about him. That was just the surface. He was working for someone. The company. The same one I work for now. I thought I could expose them. I was wrong." She swallowed hard. Her eyes shimmered. "You need to find a man named Elijah Langston. He used to work with them. He left, disappeared. But if anyone knows how to burn this thing down from the inside, it's him. Tell him the phrase, 'The star is still falling.' He'll know." Static cut her off. The rest of the file was corrupted. I sat there in the dark, heart pounding, hands locked together. Who were these people? I Googled Elijah Langston. Nothing on social, nothing on LinkedIn, not even a whisper in the usual white pages. But I found an old blog post from 10 years ago, buried in an archive. He'd written a piece on data ethics and whistleblower laws, under an alias. A comment under the post said, "Langston, you'll regret crossing us." That was the only sign he ever existed. I didn't sleep that night. I kept looking at the USB, half expecting it to melt in my hands or detonate or something. Instead, the next morning, my phone buzzed with a text. Unknown number, no name. You opened it. That was it. No greeting, no threat, just a confirmation. Like someone was monitoring the moment I hit play. I didn't respond, didn't breathe, just powered the phone off and smashed the SIM. 3 days later, I got a knock at the door. I didn't answer, didn't move. Whoever it was stood there for a full minute. No sound, no footsteps. When I finally peeked through the peephole, nothing. Not even footprints in the dust outside. But there was an envelope under the door. Inside it, a single Polaroid photo. Me, taken from across the street. I was on my way to work, head down, coffee in hand. Scrawled on the back, "You only get one chance, Brian." That's when I realized they knew my name. They weren't just watching Kelsey. They were watching me. I took the photo, drove to the next town over, and booked a cheap motel under a fake name. Tossed my phone, left my cards behind. I used a burner laptop to search again for Elijah Langston, this time digging deeper. Forums, Reddit threads, data leaks. Finally, I found something. An encrypted PDF buried in a whistleblower support site. Password protected. The file name, langstonlights.pdf. It asked for a key phrase. I typed, "The star is still falling." It opened. The document was 36 pages long. It detailed a program, Project Parallax, a covert initiative launched by a private research company in Silicon Valley, the same company Kelsey worked for. According to the file, Parallax wasn't about medicine or clean energy like their PR said. It was about memory manipulation, digital reprogramming, erasing people from their own pasts. Volunteers became test subjects, but some didn't volunteer. The deeper I read, the more my blood ran cold. Page 12. Early test case, female, age 19. Brilliant cognitive function, known alias Kelsey M. There were charts, brainwave scans, video transcripts from sessions labeled compliance conditioning. Then a quote from one of the researchers, "Memory is currency, and every currency can be laundered." I closed the laptop and threw up in the motel sink. She hadn't abandoned me. She'd been erased, or worse, reprogrammed. But why was she back now? Why reach out if it meant risking exposure? Because some part of her, buried under years of brainwashing and fear, still remembered, still knew my name, still called me Brian. I knew what I had to do. I had to find Langston, not just online, physically. The document mentioned a location, off the grid, a cabin somewhere near Trinity County. No address, just coordinates. I printed the map, packed everything, and hit the road. For 9 hours, I drove through winding mountain passes and dirt roads until my GPS cut out. Eventually, I found it. A rundown cabin surrounded by pine trees, nearly invisible from the road. No car, no mailbox. I knocked, no answer. I knocked again. Then I heard it, a low creak from inside, and then a voice, raspy, unsure. What's the phrase? I stepped closer to the door. The star is still falling. Silence. Then a latch unlocked. The door opened. He looked nothing like I expected. Late 60s, bearded, eyes like coals, like someone who hadn't slept in a decade. "You shouldn't be here," he said. I told him everything. About Kelsey, the USB, the photo, the envelope. He listened without blinking. When I finished, he leaned back and said, "They're waking her up." What? That's what happens sometimes. The mind can only stay caged so long, but if she's reaching out to you now, they'll notice, and they'll erase her again. This time, permanently. I swallowed. "Can you help me?" He looked at me, really looked. "I can try, but it'll cost everything." Before I left, he handed me something, a worn leather notebook. Inside it were sketches, names, passcodes, places. But the last page held a photo I'd never seen before. Me, Kelsey, and Mom. Smiling, whole. It couldn't have been real. That day never happened. Not like that, except it looked real. Langston saw the look on my face. "They've been rewriting you too, Brian." I didn't move. Couldn't move. That sentence hit me like a second heartbeat in my skull. "What do you mean, rewriting me?" Langston just stared at the photograph again, like it carried some truth that had been surgically removed from my head. "I mean," he said slowly, "they didn't just wipe her memories. You're tied to this deeper than you think." He handed me the notebook again, turned to a section I hadn't seen before, labeled Tier 2 Anchors. And there, scribbled in red ink, was my name. Brian D. Mercer. Birth date, high school, foster records, all accurate. Beside it was one word: stabilizer. I didn't know what that meant, but I hated how right it felt. "I think," Langston continued, "you were used to keep her sane, to anchor her personality while they experimented." "No," I whispered, backing away. "I took care of her. I raised her. That was me. That wasn't implanted." He didn't flinch. "Maybe. Or maybe they gave her someone familiar to attach to, someone who could regulate her behavior, keep her on track, make her easier to control." That's sick. It's real. I sank onto the edge of a dusty chair, heart thudding in my ears. I felt violated in a way I couldn't explain, like my entire childhood had been filmed on a green screen and edited in post. My voice cracked. "Why would they keep me around if I wasn't even part of the program?" Langston's eyes darkened. "They didn't. Not really. They let you think you were in control, because that's what made you valuable. But Brian, they've been inside your head too. The night your mom died. Are you sure it happened the way you remember?" My blood ran cold. I hadn't thought about that night in years. We found her on the couch, eyes glazed, empty orange bottle on the floor. I always remembered Kelsey clinging to me, screaming for help. But the rest? It was all flashes, shadows, a memory that felt like it had been played back too many times, too perfectly rehearsed. I swallowed hard. "What if they planted a false trauma?" Langston asked. "What better way to separate two kids from any support network? Make them easier to monitor, easier to test?" I shook my head, number. "I remember the funeral. I remember the casket, the church." Langston sighed. "You remember what you needed to remember." He slid a flash drive across the table. "There's a man in Denver. Name's Julian Cray. He used to process memory files for Parallax clients, mostly high-net-worth types who paid to forget affairs or criminal ties. But he knows the tech. If anyone can reverse it, it's him." "Exactly. But you need to be careful. If they catch wind that you're looking for answers, they won't erase you, Brian. They'll rewrite you into someone else." I took the flash drive, and for the first time in my life, I questioned whether I'd ever truly been myself. I left Trinity County that night. No headlights, no music, just the sound of tires eating up lonely asphalt. Somewhere along Interstate 80, I pulled over to a roadside diner to breathe. Inside, it was quiet. Just a waitress wiping down tables and an old man nursing black coffee. I ordered pie and sat in the farthest booth. The TV in the corner played news on mute. But then something caught my eye. Kelsey. Her face. On screen. Crystal clear. Breaking. Biotech exec linked to espionage ring. Feds seeking whistleblower in multi-billion-dollar breach. Below it, her full name. A flashing red banner. And the words, "Considered armed and dangerous." My fork dropped to the floor. None of it made sense. She was brilliant, kind, careful. She hated guns. This wasn't her, but the headlines said otherwise. The world now thought my sister was a criminal, and if I didn't move fast, that label would be permanent. Denver was a blur. Snow flurries chased my windshield. Motel 6s, gas station coffee, fake names at check-in. I finally tracked Julian Cray to a bookstore he supposedly owned, Bright Minds Paper Company. It was tucked between an abandoned gym and a vape shop, the kind of place you'd walk past without noticing. I stepped inside. The smell of old paper and leather hit me first. Then the man behind the counter looked up. Gray hair, heavy bags under his eyes, a twitch in his left hand. "You're looking for Langston's ghost," he said, before I spoke a word. I froze. "How did you—" "Because no one comes in here unless they're already haunted." I pulled out the flash drive. "I need help." We sat in a back room behind the shop. Julian locked 3 different bolts before plugging in the flash drive. "You know the risk, right?" he said. "This could either free your mind or shatter it." I nodded. He connected a small wearable to the side of my head, an EEG unit modified for neurofeedback. Then he pulled up a digital interface labeled Core Memory Set. There were hundreds of files, each labeled with names and dates. I saw my name, Brian Mercer. Age 9, event, mother's overdose. Status, inserted. "No," I whispered. Julian tapped again, another file. First night sleeping on floor. Status, stabilization, successful. "You were given to her like training wheels, Brian," he said gently. "She never saw you that way, but they did." Tears stung my eyes. So much of my life, my sacrifices, might have been orchestrated, yet every emotion I'd felt for her was real. So what did that make me? "Can I undo it?" I asked. Julian paused. "Maybe, but there's more." He pulled up one last file. Kelsey Mercer, reinstatement trigger. Phrase, "We match." I blinked. That's what she used to say when she pressed her hand against mine. It wasn't just a childhood quirk. It was a code, a fail-safe. If I said those words, maybe it would unlock something in her. Maybe she wanted to remember. As I left the shop, my phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. This time, a text. "Meet me. Parking garage, 9th and Lowell. Come alone." Attached was a live location pin and one word, Kelsey. I didn't think, didn't wait, didn't eat or breathe until I got to that garage. It was mostly empty. Just a few dusty cars, the echoes of my footsteps. Then, from the shadows, she appeared, hood up, eyes wide, trembling. I whispered, "Kelsey." She shook her head. "Don't say my name. Not here." I stepped closer. She didn't run. "I saw the footage," I said quietly. "I saw the USB. Langston helped me. I know about Parallax. I know what they did to you, to us." Her eyes welled up. "It's not safe to talk here. They're probably watching." She looked thinner, pale, a shadow of the girl I remembered. I held up my hand, palm to palm. "We match," I said softly. She froze, like something in her flickered. And then, her knees buckled. I caught her before she hit the ground. She looked up at me, dazed, like a fog had lifted for just a second. "Brian?" she whispered. Did they take you too?" I nodded, my throat too tight to speak. She clutched my shirt, eyes wide with terror. "Then we're both next." There's something terrifying about realizing your own memories might not belong to you, that the pain you carry, the love you fought for, the sacrifices you've made, might have been scripted by someone else. But here's the thing. Even if they rewrote our past, they can't erase how we feel about it. Because emotions, they don't follow code, they survive. I don't know what's waiting for us next, or how deep this conspiracy runs, But I do know this. Kelsey remembered me, not because they allowed her to, but because some bonds can't be broken. Not by science, not by fear, not even by time. If this story shook something in you, if it made you question what's real, or reminded you of someone you'd never forget, drop a comment below and tell us where you're watching from. We'd love to know who's out there watching with us. And hey, if you haven't already, hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell, because these aren't just stories. They're echoes. Quiz time. How many times did you hear the name Brian in this episode? Drop your answer in the comments. Be the first to get it right.